Hello, I'm Anna Kalczynska and this is News in Depth. This is a section where we take you to a discussion with our columnists, publicists, our journalists. Today I'm joined by editor-in-chief of tvpworld.com, Matthew Day. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
So we are about to discuss the state visit of American president in London. With all the might, the majesty of a royal coronation, Donald Trump was ushered into Windsor Castle yesterday. But let us just jump into today's visit in the Downing Street. We will begin by the talks with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So as I understand, there was a deal signed, US-UK technology prosperity deal. Let us have a listen of Donald Trump and Keir Starmer.
We've already taken a big steps forward. And we're going further today, much further. In a moment, the President and I will sign our groundbreaking new technology partnership, the Tech Prosperity Deal. It's a blueprint to win this new era together, shape it according to our shared values, and seize the incredible opportunities that are on offer.
Today we're making those ties closer than ever before. We've done some things that financially are great for both countries, and we work together, and it keeps us together.
So Keir Starmer is trying to pitch Britain as a key destination for US investment. How significant is this deal?
I think that we'll find that out in the course of time. The figure we heard today was $350 billion, which Mr. Trump says that money will be galvanized in a series of deals across many sectors. It could even from quantum computing to nuclear technology. So we're talking about a very broad spectrum, and of course we're talking about a very long time as well. And it's not like $350 billion is going to land in the UK's bank account. These are like pledges, these are commitments, these are promises as well. But symbolically, I think it's very important for the UK, and because when you look at the British government and when you look at the Trump administration, they differ an awful lot on many things. Actually, the Trump administration is always targeting the UK government, saying it's like too woke, it's soft on migration, it is killing free speech on the internet. But for some reason, Trump and Keir Starmer have a very good relationship. Trump even told Starmer that he's doing a great job.
He was the one to break the ice in the very tense moment of Europe-US relations, I remember. It was only then Emmanuel Macron flew to Washington, but Keir Starmer was the first.
Yeah, and he's been very proactive, and of course he produced the Trump card, forgive the pun, with that invitation for President Trump to come to the United Kingdom again for another state visit, which is a highly unusual honour. And I think Starmer knew that this would appeal to, shall we say, the more regal nature of Trump, or monarchical nature of Trump, if you want to be more critical. It flatters him. And so Starmer knew that the UK could get Trump on side with this invitation, and the deal has come out of it, so that maybe that's a result of the flattery that the deal resulted. The invitation resulted in.
In the case of Donald Trump, definitely, we will just discuss it. But how about the issues of Ukraine? Do you think they were discussed as well?
I think they were. They mentioned it at a press conference which happened just like half an hour ago. Trump was pushed by the press about what you're going to do with Putin. Putin's not playing ball. Are you going to put more sanctions, secondary sanctions on Russia? And Trump went through his usual spiel about, this war would never have happened if I had been president, and he didn't answer the question. And I think it was quite telling that after he'd finished speaking, Keir Starmer jumped in straight away and he said, look, Putin, we need to put pressure on Putin because we're making no progress. So there is the fact that he did that was telling, because it clearly indicated that the two sides disagree quite a lot, and I think it even indicates a certain amount of British frustration with Trump over this issue.
All right. Well, we are discussing words basically, right? No clear decisions here, and but symbols are also important, as you mentioned. Words do matter. And so in this respect, the symbolic dress code yesterday at the grand banquet of Queen Camilla and also of First Lady Melania Trump was also worth noting, right? Both women dressed in blue and yellow, the official colors of the Ukrainian flag. Do you think that could also have a meaning? And is there another element inside the US couple that somehow puts pressure on Donald Trump to realign a little bit with the Europeans on that matter?
I feel, as a very scruffy British journalist, kind of a bit uncomfortable talking about fashion, but I do know, I have read that people say that we often underestimate Melania Trump, and she's often dismissed as a sort of as somebody who's quite irrelevant, or even in really unfair terms, that somebody maybe is not very intellectually fired up, shall we say. Mm-hmm. But she is from Central Europe. She is aware of, I guess, Central European sentiment when it comes to Russia, when it comes to Ukraine. And so it could be that she does apply pressure to her husband to be more forthcoming when it comes to Ukraine's problems. But of course that so far hasn't really been reflected in US policy, which has been okay, the US has agreed to sell arms to NATO, which will eventually get to Ukraine, but it hasn't been under Trump, they haven't introduced these sanctions against Russia, which Ukraine really, really wants, and has also played a very, very difficult game with Zelensky. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so maybe Melania does have an influence, but maybe it's a positive influence, but it hasn't really perhaps had telling effect on US policy, as far as we know, of course.
You're right. Anyway, coming back to the flatteries that you've just mentioned, well, there's been a lot fly past by military aircraft. Yeah. A shotgun, gun salute, carriage tour, amazing aesthetics of this banquet that we're just watching right now here. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely outstanding, true. Was it necessary, you think? Or is it sort of, I don't know, caressing a narcissist, or a grand tour of British show of soft power?
I think two ways of looking at it. From the British government's point of view, yes, it was necessary. They feel that we have to keep Trump on side no matter what, even though we disagree with him on many issues. It is better to have the, not an enemy, but somebody you disagree with inside your tent rather than outside your tent, and this is definitely a way of bringing Trump into the British court, into the British tent, and providing all the flattery, all the pomp and circumstances that will go down well in the Trump house. The other side is, of course, is that Trump is actually quite unpopular with large sections of the British public.
Thousands of people protesting on the London streets.
Yes, which is why I think Trump could only go on a carriage ride within the grounds of Windsor Castle. He couldn't go down the Mall towards Buckingham Palace because there'd been too many protests, and that would have created a major security issue as well. So the British government has to balance it. It has to, yes, we have to get Trump with us, but at the same time they are perfectly aware that large sections of the British public really dislike Trump. In fact, probably large numbers of the British government probably really dislike Trump, particularly over issues like Ukraine, particularly over Gaza, for example, which is a very emotional subject within the Labour government. So, yeah, anyway, I think Starmer is going to walk away a happy man. He's got this big deal. Trump was praising him, praising the king, praising the country, how much he loved the UK. So
praising himself as well.
Of course. And, yeah, so it was good news for the British government, particularly because they're in a really difficult spot at the moment. So it's really good PR at a very good moment for them. Yeah, so they'll be happy.
Let's have a listen of both leaders and a very, let's say, honourable moment of this banquet when they were taking, when they were speaking.
Together we've done more good for humanity than any two countries in all of history. Together we must defend the exceptional heritage that makes us who we are, and we must continue to stand for the values and the people of the English-speaking world, and we do indeed stand for that.
Our countries have the closest defence, security and intelligence relationship ever known. In 2 world wars, we fought together to defeat the forces of tyranny. Today, as tyranny once again threatens Europe, we and our allies stand together in support of Ukraine to deter aggression and secure peace.
That was quite telling, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So
a powerful quote. So we stood up to the tyranny and to defeat the forces of tyranny, and we stand together today.
Well, clearly we don't, actually. So the Downing Street probably wrote that speech for the King. They put the reference to Ukraine in. Well, you know, clearly, oddly enough, they didn't actually mention Russia in that speech either.
True.
And so they wanted to get the point clearly and publicly to the president that we have to stand up to tyranny, and to do that we have to stand by Ukraine. But that was last night. Trump was asked about Ukraine today at the press conference, standing side by side, Keir Starmer, and he just went through his usual words and clearly hadn't really been moved by what the King said. But if you don't mind, I'll just mention one thing though about the special relationship, which has been a term that has been used since the 1940s, and that was founded in the Second World War, forged in the Second World War, of course. And politically, it's always been a rather fraught relationship. Sometimes it has been special, but sometimes it hasn't been. And the UK and the United States have been at loggerheads. But there are aspects where this sort of relationship can be quite special. And like, for example, with the armed forces of the UK and the United States, they know each other inside out. They cooperate incredibly well. And they are, they know how to work with each other, and their relationship is special, and that really is quite something when it comes to the battlefield or when it comes to the politics of fighting wars. There's this famous story in 1982 when Britain went to war over the Falkland Islands after the Argentinian invasion. At the time when America was still trying to broker a kind of peace agreement, the United States Air Force and Navy were providing the British Air Force with Sidewinder missiles. They hadn't even got the official approval from the United States government, but they're saying, you guys, you're going down to the South Atlantic, you're going to need to shoot down jets. Here, have these missiles. And that was a perfect example of how this special relationship, how there is a special relationship, but at certain levels, and that's not always reflected at the political level.
All right, and finally, Matthew, I wanted to ask you as a Brit, how do you perceive this? On the one side, we have this pomp and all these glamorous pictures, and on the other side, we have President Donald Trump, who flatters himself, basically. Let's have a listen of a fragment of this speech, again, from this beautiful banquet.
It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. And if you think about it, it's a lot of presidents, and this was the second state visit, and that's the first, and maybe that's going to be the last time. I hope it is, actually. But this is truly one of the highest honors of my life. Such respect for you and such respect for your country.
You never know when Donald Trump is joking, right? But saying that he was the first to have been honored with such a visit, state visit. Then he corrected himself, saying that it was his second visit, where we know that there were at least nine presidents of the United States before him, which were granted this honor of state visits to the Windsor Castle. So how do you judge it? What's your assessment of the situation around this table among the British peasantry and the king, making that it's difficult to react or not to react to words like that?
It is, and I wouldn't like to be, well, I would love to be there, of course, but in some ways I wouldn't like to be there, because you know that you have to, there are lots of cameras around and they're looking at your face. And if you
each blink of an eye is being noticed.
If you look bored, or if you happen to yawn, you could create a diplomatic incident. So, or if you laugh inappropriately, or if you look at your watch, for example. All these little acts could be interpreted as something, as an insult or a diplomatic faux pas or something. So these people who are within camera shot, they just have to stare like that and try to look attentive without looking bored, without looking pleased without overdoing it. So it must
not
be
easy.
No, it must be really, really hard.
Matthew, also another issue that I wanted to touch upon, but we have a little time left, but still I think it's worth mentioning. 17th of September, on the occasion of the Russian aggression on Poland in 1939, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs published a propaganda statement on X at least, saying that it was a special operation in 1939. Why would they do it now, and what's the symbolic of it? How do you read it?
Well, this little video is truly ridiculous, and you don't know what's more ridiculous, the people who made it or the people who believe it. But as you said, the language is quite interesting throughout. The invasion of Poland in 1939 wasn't an invasion, it was a military operation. It wasn't a special one, but it was a military operation. So they seem to be drawing parallels with Ukraine. And they quote Putin. And Putin, in this little video, says, it was the Poles' fault. The Polish government threw the Polish people under the wheels of the German war machine or something like that. And he's parroting a Nazi line, a Hitler propagandist line, but it's also he said the same thing about Ukraine as well. He said, if Kyiv had done a deal back in 2014, we may have managed to, this war wouldn't have gone ahead, or at 2016, this war would not have gone ahead. So he's drawing these parallels between what happened to Poland in 1939 and what happened to Ukraine, and which is quite scary in a way. And of course, if he's calling Ukraine the new Poland, so who are the new Nazis? The sort of logical extension is that Russia are the new Nazis, because they seem to be. I said, it was Poland's fault that they were invaded by the Nazis, and it was Ukraine's fault that they were invaded by the Russians.
The tyranny that is threatening Europe, to quote King Charles again.
Yeah,
Matthew, thank you so much. Matthew Day, editor-in-chief of tvpworld.com. Thank you so much for being with us here on News in Depth. Please stay tuned to TVP World for more.